It's Wednesday, January 7th. In the headlines, Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness clarifies $75 million allocation to churches. In business news, we take a closer look at consolidation of Barita and JN Fund managers. Regionally, CARICOM urges diplomacy after U.S. action in Venezuela. And in sports, World Athletics President visits Jamaica to boost athletics recovery. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I am Danita Rodney. Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness is clarifying that the government's $75 million allocation for churches affected by Hurricane Melissa is for cleanup efforts only, not reconstruction. In a statement posted to his social media platforms, the Prime Minister said reports suggesting the funds were meant to rebuild damaged churches are inaccurate.
The government has made an offer to the church. I was following in the media what has been said about the offer. I believe that there is a grave misunderstanding. And this is one of the challenges that we face in modern communications, because communication is done in only snippets. People rarely go beyond the headline or beyond the first few words that caught their attention to look at the details of the communication.
Dr. Holness says the allocation is part of a wider national cleanup program with priority given to the 5 parishes hardest hit by the hurricane.
We have said that we have reserved $75 million out of the total cleanup fund projected to be used for churches who would like to undertake a cleanup of their property or premises. This is not for rebuilding, but there are many churches that are still in that position where they have been able to remove debris from their facilities that have been destroyed. Roofs collapse, walls collapse, and it will take some support to get them to be able to move debris, clean up, so that they can actually get reconstruction going.
He adds that churches must apply through their local SDC offices, which will assess the damage before allocating funds.
So we have made this available upon an assessment by the SDC, and if churches choose to take it up, they can get in touch with their local SDC office. They will come there, do the assessment, and they will say, well, we think a certain amount of funds will be necessary to help you to clean up and get your operations going again. The state couldn't take on the cost of reconstructing churches. So there obviously was some great misunderstanding that what we have offered is a part of the national cleanup exercise.
The Prime Minister says talks are continuing with church groups on long-term recovery, including potential financing through the National Housing Trust, as dozens of churches in Western Jamaica continue to recover from the devastation of Category 5 Hurricane Melissa last October. Chief Justice Brian Sykes is urging greater autonomy for Jamaica's judiciary as he outlines persistent challenges with courts' infrastructure, funding, and case backlogs, while praising judges and the court staff for maintaining access to justice even in the aftermath of Hurricane Melissa. Speaking at the recent swearing-in of new judicial officers, Chief Justice Sykes congratulated the appointees, stressing that their selection was based on merit and high standards required of the bench. He underscored the critical role of the Court of Appeal, noting that its decisions are final in the vast majority of cases and shape the law for years to come.
The Court of Appeal is in fact the final court for 98 to 99% of cases that go to the appellate process. And so it is vital that you bring to that post the skill, the dedication, and the requisite humility, knowing full well that decisions that you make there not just affect the immediate parties to the proceedings, but could also affect the law for many years to come. and I have no doubt that you will acquit yourselves there properly.
Chief Justice Sykes also praised judges and court staff in Western Jamaica for restoring services after Hurricane Melissa severely damaged several courthouses.
It is a tribute to the leadership of the judges, the senior judges of the parish court in those parishes, that notwithstanding the devastation, we were able to resume legal services, the delivery of legal services, and I wish to publicly acknowledge the role that the senior judges and all the judges there played and the court operations managers in ensuring access to justice in the shortest possible time.
However, he raised concerns about delays in repairing court infrastructure, arguing that the judiciary needs greater control over its capital budget to properly serve the public.
The time has now come for us to be given the greater control over the capital budget, and this is really in keeping with what I was told some time ago. The acronym is MTRBB, and that is what is called medium-term results-based budgeting.
On case delays, the Chief Justice warned that the current system cannot keep pace with rising caseloads and suggested reforms, including a closer look at how cases are resolved.
We have to continue to look at the circuit court system. As repeatedly said, not that it was bad, but it has outlived its usefulness. It really cannot cope with the volume of cases and the complexity of the cases, and there is no such thing as a simple case anymore in the circuit courts. All of the cases now, virtually all of them, they have complex evidentiary matters to be addressed by the trial judges, and so it is consuming a significant amount of time.
Despite the challenges, Chief Justice Sykes expressed optimism, announcing that several courts are expected to receive ISO certification in 2026, aimed at improving efficiency and accountability across the justice system. The Jamaican Urban Transit Company is extending free rides for students on its rural school bus program, but the offer will only last until the end of this month. JUTC says starting February 1, students will need a valid student ID to access the service, which will then cost $50 per ride. The company also confirmed that its free ride initiative on regular JUTC buses ended on January 5. According to Transport Minister Darrell Vaz, approximately 7,000 students using the program has been registered so far.
All 110 school buses are in Ireland. The biggest problem that we face now is the registration of the kids. The parents are not registering them. So the fact of the matter is that in order for them to board the bus on Monday morning, they'd have to be registered and have their card to be able to activate the transport costs, etc. So I expect that to be a challenge because we only have about 7,000 as of now.
Parents are being urged to ensure their children are properly registered for the Rural School Bus Program to continue receiving transportation support. The National Irrigation Commission is urging farmers who use its services to stay connected through its social media platforms as it works to provide timely updates and respond quickly to concerns. Public Relations Specialist at the NIC, Christine Forbes, says the platforms allow for real-time communication, especially during service disruptions. She notes that the Commission recently launched a WhatsApp channel to better reach farmers across the island.
We're on all major social media platforms at NIC Jamaica Ltd. We would have recently launched our WhatsApp channel, which we're encouraging our farmers to get on board so they can have real-time information on if there's any service disruption, general services, and just what exactly the NIC is doing at that point in time. So we will really encourage our farmers to get onto our WhatsApp and stay connected with us.
Ms. Forbes was speaking at a recent JIS think tank in Kingston. She explained that while many NIC customers may not use traditional social media, most are active on WhatsApp, making it an effective tool.
A lot of them, they're older folks, so they'll tell us that they're not on the traditional social media, the other social media platforms, the Instagram, the X, but they have a WhatsApp number. So we're encouraging them to stay connected with us online, and we're here to serve, and we are here to help them to boost their food production. And we know that agriculture for them is a money-making thing. So the NIC is here, our offices are open, and our team members are ready and waiting to assist in their recovery.
The National Irrigation Commission provides irrigation services to farmers island-wide, while also supplying water to some industrial and commercial operators. Time now for the business report with Denise Williams.
Welcome to today's business report. I'm Denise Williams, bringing you the developments shaping markets, capital access, and business decision making across Jamaica and the region. Let's get into the stories that matter. Given the reconstruction phase that Jamaica is currently in, we asked architectural designer and builder Curtis Hilton to give us 3 steps to avoid construction scams and find quality workmen. We are here with Mr. Curtis Hilton, architectural designer and contractor. And you know, in this reconstruction phase, we're done with the holidays and we're back to business. And so the question is, a very simple question. What documents are needed to apply for National Housing Trust or an insurance company for assistance with making repairs to your property? So Mr. Hilton, in your 30 years of experience, do the document requirements change or are they pretty basic?
They're pretty basic in my experience. The National Housing Trust always asks for some critical information. They want survey reports,
okay,
copy of the title,
okay,
for the premises, and if it's a case that what you're going to do any construction, they require an approved plan from whichever parish council within that geographical space that you're going to do your construction.
Okay, so that's basically it, a survey report,
copy of the title, and an approved plan.
And an approved, but you gotta get the plan drawn first.
Yes.
So you have to pay for the drawing.
And pay for it to be approved by the parish council.
And pay for the approval of the parish council. Right. And that's pretty much it, but it seems simple, but those documents are very important.
They're very critical, they're of critical importance because initially wants to know that you are indeed the owner of the property and that you have legal rights to the property. Because you know, they put a lien on the title when you take a loan from them and they want to be in good standing. Okay. Just in case a person might forfeit, then they have legal means through the title and stuff. So those are critical part of the documentation.
What about the insurance company? Is it any different?
They're pretty much the same set of documentations and that they will require. Proof of ownership, you know, and everything that surrounds that.
Right, so they're going to need a costing, the insurance company and NHT.
Yes, for damages to properties that's been insured, yes, they're going to need what is called a bill of quantity report that will outline the damage and the cost to the repairs and also cost for materials. Okay. And that will give them an idea in terms of disbursement of funds based on that report.
Okay, fantastic. Yes. All right. Thank you, Mr. Hilton.
You're welcome.
KFC franchise holder Mark Myers, director of Cornerstone Financial Holdings Limited and chairman of Burita Investments Limited, announced that Burita has received regulatory no objection in respect to its proposed acquisition of 100% of the issued share capital of JN Fund Managers Limited, or JNFM. Upon completion, the transaction is expected to increase Burita's assets under management to over 500 billion Jamaican dollars as JNFM is integrated into Burita's operating platform. Cornerstone also confirms that in December 2025, it entered a strategic partnership with Proven Management Limited, the investment manager of Proven Group Limited. According to Myers, Cornerstone, combined with Proven Platform, now manages the equivalent of approximately 1 trillion in assets under management and invested capital. According to Myers, through its USA-based company, CFHL USA, Cornerstone has development oversight for over 2,000 acres of prime oceanfront real estate in several strategic locations along Jamaica's tourism belt. For the trading period of January 6, 2026, the most actively traded securities were AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited with 10,003,023 units representing 28.14% of market sales activities. Trans Jamaican Highway Limited with 8,625,411 units representing 24.26% of market sales activities. Sagicor Select Funds Limited Manufacturing and Distribution with 1,956,075 units representing 5.50% of market sales activities. Investor activity remained concentrated in transportation, distribution, and manufacturing plays, signaling continued interest in dividend-producing and strategic assets. Turning to the foreign exchange market, based on Bank of Jamaica data for January 6, 2026, Forex traders recorded significant activity with strong demand across major currencies. The US dollar had trading margins reflected steady liquidity in the US, selling at $159.32 and buying at $157.37. Canadian dollar had moderate gains supported by a $1.47 transaction spread. The Canadian dollar sold for $114.08 and was bought for $112.61. The British pound had continued volatility, which offered short-term trading opportunities of 72 cents in profits for the banks. The British pound sold for $213.52 and was bought for $212.80. These movements underscore the importance of cash flow timing and currency awareness for businesses managing import costs, debt servicing, or overseas exposure. For our credit report tip of the day, your credit score is not a reflection of who you are. It's a reflection of how the system reads your financial behavior. When you understand that, you can start fresh and position your credit to work in your favor. Used strategically, debt becomes a pathway to income-producing assets, allowing you to build cash flow, expand ownership, and create financial options without relying solely on saved cash. For our credit report tip of the day, entrepreneurial income grows faster when nothing is left to guesswork. Now, a credit readiness snapshot, a business compliance health check, and profit clarity session ensure the foundation is solid, while a pitch-ready profile makeover, funding fit report, and financial confidence reset strengthen how you present, price, and pursue opportunity. Now, add a visibility audit, digital tool setup, and a revenue growth blueprint, and you move from scattered effort to focused execution. And then the capital readiness package ensures that you can act when opportunities appear. Together, these 10 check-ins turn preparation into momentum and momentum into income. And that's today's business report. I'm Denise Williams, bringing clarity to capital, markets, and strategy. Until next time, stay informed, stay intentional, and keep building forward. See you soon.
In regional news, CARICOM leaders have launched urgent discussions following the U.S. seizure of Venezuela's president and his wife, reaffirming the region's commitment to international law, sovereignty, and a peaceful dialogue. Regional leaders are calling for diplomacy to guide the way forward as Caribbean governments closely monitor the unfolding situation and its wider implications. The details from SKN Newsline.
Heads of government of the Caribbean community started urgent discussions after the U.S. military snatched Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro and his wife, prompting new CARICOM chairman Dr. Terence Drew, Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, to cancel his attendance at the annual New Year's Prime Minister's Grand Gala. Following the meeting, a CARICOM press release was issued stating, quote, "The Caribbean community, CARICOM, is firmly committed to the fundamental principles of international law and multilateralism enshrined in the UN Charter, including sovereignty and territorial integrity of states and respect for human dignity. The region reiterates its call for peaceful dialogue through diplomatic channels to ensure Venezuela's stability, good governance, democracy, and prosperity for the people of Venezuela. CARICOM remains ready to support all such efforts in a spirit of cooperation and mutual respect," end quote. Meanwhile, Parliamentary Opposition Leader Mark Brantley, following discussions with Prime Minister Dr. Terence Drew on the matters, a press release was issued on behalf of the opposition in the Parliament of St. Kitts and Nevis. MP Brantley said, quote, "Both Venezuela and the United States have been long-standing friends of St. Kitts and Nevis. I therefore remain hopeful that hostilities will cease immediately and that diplomacy will be given a chance to resolve outstanding issues in a peaceful manner." It continues, "At this difficult period in our region, I pledge my support to the efforts of our Prime Minister and CARICOM as they fashion a peaceful solution to this problem," end quote. Public statements by leaders from around the Caribbean region have been measured in what is a dynamic development involving multiple global interests. Meanwhile, United States air carriers have been implementing additional flights into the region on Sunday after the United States FAA lifted airspace closures to U.S. carriers. On Sunday, Delta Airlines used a larger 757 aircraft into St. Kitts to take its stranded passengers to New York, while American Airlines on Monday flew an additional flight out of Miami to address passenger needs on the ground. Glenn Bart reporting for SK Newsline.
Dominica has confirmed a new agreement with the United States to accept third-country refugees in cases where deportation to their country of origin is not possible. Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit says the arrangement includes safeguards to protect national security and reflects continued cooperation between the two countries. The Prime Minister made the announcement on Monday, outlining an agreement with Washington to facilitate the temporary settlement of selected third-country refugees in Dominica.
Dominica has been engaged in ongoing dialogue with the United States on matters of mutual interest, and an agreement has been reached on one of the primary areas of collaboration. The United States and the Commonwealth of Dominica has entered into an agreement to facilitate third-country refugees to be sent to Dominica to mitigate scenarios where the United States cannot return these individuals to the state of birth or origin. In our discussions with the State Department, there have been careful deliberations of the need to avoid receiving violent individuals or individuals who will compromise the security of Dominica.
He said the agreement is rooted in maintaining strong bilateral ties while ensuring the safety and well-being of Dominicans.
This engagement is based on our responsibility to safeguard the well-being of our people, particularly their access to lawful travel, education, employment, and family connections, while strengthening cooperation between our two governments. I believe this will further deepen our long-standing relationship and signal clearly that Dominica remains a willing and reliable partner of the United States in our region.
The Prime Minister declined to say which countries the migrants would come from, citing confidentiality under the Memorandum of Understanding. We lead off today's sports report with athletics. World Athletics President Lord Sebastian Coe is in Jamaica on a 4-day visit to support the recovery of the sport after Hurricane Melissa caused widespread disruption in October. Since arriving on Sunday, Lord Coe has met with the Jamaica Athletics Administration Association, government officials, and opposition representatives to discuss rebuilding and strengthening the sport.
I'm a great believer that you can only witness that on the ground. You can't witness it from 6 or 7 time zones away in a headquarters. It can only be experienced through conversations and proper understanding. So already in 24 hours, I have a much clearer idea about how we can help in complementary programs, in making sure that we bring technical expertise where we have it, in helping you recover from this.
He stressed the importance of restoring school programs in Western Jamaica, which he says form the foundation for nurturing athletic talent.
I'm always conscious that there is no coincidence between what goes on at the very highest level on the podium and the vibrancy and quality and health of your school's program. That is absolutely essential. For those of you that coach at that level, thank you, because it doesn't go unnoticed. But what I really want to be able to do is to really understand how at World Athletics we can best assist you, Garth, you, Babsy, and the structures that you have around you, because that is important.
Lord Coe also praised Jamaica's athletes as a national asset, highlighting the need to protect and develop their talent for the country's future success in track and field.
When anyone closes their eyes and is asked to think about Jamaica, then I think that it is generations of extraordinary athletes that they think about, almost above anything else. And that is a fabulous asset for any country to have. And I'm not going to run through the list of names.
In cricket, explosive batter Nicholas Puran says he remains at peace with his decision to retire as he focuses on building a successful career in franchise cricket. His latest comments comes as fans in the Caribbean continue to hope for the Trinidadians' return to the West Indies setup. ABS Sports' Sharif Sargent reports.
Puran, who made his Windies debut in 2016, shockingly announced his retirement from international cricket last June at age 29. The former Windies captain, who played close to 170 games in white ball cricket, walked away as the team's leading run scorer in T20 internationals with 2,275. With the ICC T20 World Cup beginning next month in India and Sri Lanka, there has been a feeling that Puran could perform a U-turn and make himself available for selection. However, Puran says he's comfortable with his current status and denies any fallout with the team or Cricket West Indies. The Trinidadian, whose last appearance came in December 2024, believes he did all he could for the West Indies during his 8 years of service. The Trinidadian has continued to play in lucrative franchise leagues around the world, including the Indian Premier League and Caribbean Premier League. Despite criticism over his choice, the 30-year-old believes it's the right one. Sharif Sargent, ABS Sport.
And that's it for the news on PBCJ. You can follow us on our social media platforms at PBCJamaica. Thank you so much for watching.